Hey everybody, this is GGB co-host Poppers, and it's time to start a new week of college basketball upset of the day. Let's go over Sunday's games real quick. Unfortunately, the season this week ended in heartbreak for me. I picked Minnesota to upset number 5 Iowa, and unfortunately Minnesota actually got crushed by Iowa. I think Iowa was kind of upset that they lost to them in overtime on Christmas Day. So I think they just kind of took him out on Luka Garza had a whale of a game. Notre Dame traveled to number 19 Virginia Tech yesterday, and Virginia Tech won. Although not as much of a lopsided game as I expected it to be. They did end up winning by over 10 points, I'm pretty sure, so not horribly close. And then Maryland. Maryland actually did end up upsetting number 12 Illinois. It was a very good upset. I was very surprised. It had the highest spread of the day. Maryland wasn't looking too great, but I've said it before. Whenever a Big Ten team really needs a win, and that Maryland team kind of needed this win badly, they kind of get the win. I mean, it seems like teams almost play really hard when they kind of need the win, when they need to turn their ship around, and that's why I could have gone either way on Minnesota, Iowa. Neither of them really needed to turn that ship around. Maryland desperately needed to turn that ship around. They did not want to fall to the likes of Penn State in the Big Ten. They did not want to sink that low. So, a win against number 12 Illinois was huge. I mean, huge for their hope to make the playoffs moving forward. Illinois, on the other hand, it just seemed like Maryland wanted it more. They seemed to fight harder to get the rebounds. They just seemed to fight harder on defense. It was really interesting to watch because Illinois is supposed to be the better team. Maryland just lost Jalen Smith, probably their best player they've had in a long, long time. A first-round draft pick. So I thought Maryland was going to be mediocre at best this year, and they've actually looked pretty good. They've beaten some high-quality opponents, Wisconsin and Illinois being some of them. But sometimes they get blown out. So it's going to be an interesting process moving forward to see if Maryland actually gets enough wins to get to the playoffs. Now, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think there's a realistic world where 12 Big Ten teams make the tournament. Because if you look at other conferences, Pac12, they should really send only one. And aside from that, you're really looking at probably 5 other conferences to get some in. Now, I expect the ACC to get a decent amount in the Big 12, right? And the big question is, how many Big East teams do we take? Do we take Xavier? Do we take Providence? Villanova and Creighton are almost certain guarantees, but do we take Xavier? Do we take Providence at this point? It's going to be interesting to watch moving forward. Now, the American's a lot trickier because you have a lot of good teams that are underrated in the American, which I'll get to soon. But I think there's a realistic world where we send Big Ten sends 12 teams to the postseason. But let's go over Monday. So Monday is one of those weird days where there's no top 25 team playing today. Now, it could be unleashed that one of these teams is a top 25, although I don't really love the chances. I think our best chance is UConn. Again, UConn's another team that we kind of have to talk about come playoff time in the Big East, but let's go through them one by one. At 2 o'clock, I just took all the teams from major conferences. And there's 4 games like that today. At 2 o'clock, we have Temple, which is sitting at 1 and 2, traveling to SMU. Now, SMU's hit a bit of a skid as of late. They lost to Houston, not a horrible loss, but then they lost to Cincy. And Cincy's not a really good basketball team this year, so SMU really kind of needs to right the ship. Luckily, Temple's the perfect team to do it. Temple's just not been good this year. Has not looked like a quality basketball team as of late, and I think SMU is going to be able to right that ship, which the spread agrees with me. 12-point favorites SMU are. Now, UConn's the only team I could see realistically being in the top 25 after this week, because they've had a phenomenal start to the season. UConn, if you didn't know, are sitting at 6-1, having a great year so far. I'm really excited about what the Huskies have to offer. I'm going to be excited to see how they do and when Big East play moving forward. But the fact is DePaul is just not that great of a basketball team and has not been for a decent amount of time now. UConn's favored by 5 points, and here's the reason. DePaul's been a seriously maligned basketball team over the past few years, and they just continued it this year. You can tell. They started out 1-0 against a pretty weak basketball squad and have gone 0-3 since. So, again, not a team I have a lot of confidence in moving forward, especially against a UConn team that's pretty good. 5 o'clock, and this is going to be my upset of the day. We have Colorado, which is 8-3, moving against Utah, which is 4-4. Now, I know what you're thinking. GGB, you sensational basketball picker, you. I thought you said the Pac-12 wasn't very good. How could a team that's 8-3 be upset by a 4-4 team? Well, my naive friend, the reason I say these things is because the Pac-12 isn't very good. And when you have a not very good basketball league, that also makes it some of the most competitive basketball you will see in a long time. I compare it to the NFC East. If you didn't know, the NFC East was the worst division in football this year, but it was also a lot of fun to watch because at one point in the season, it did seem like literally any team's division to win. And almost all divisions had narrowed it down to at least 2 or 3. There was at one point a spot where all of them had the exact same record. So, well, not the exact same amount of wins. So, and heading into the last week of the NFC East, it really was anyone's ballgame. Cowboys, Giants, Redskins. So, weirdly enough, bad football makes for good, fun football viewing. Pac-12 basketball is the same way. If you have not gotten to see a Pac-12 basketball team play, I much incline you to watch one because it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to see a basketball team kind of flounder, but literally it could be anyone's ballgame because they're both just so bad. It's just they can't score points. It's a lot of fun to watch. I mean, not if you're a fan of good basketball, but if you're a fan of close games or teams miss a lot, I mean, I suggest watching these games. But the fact is, there's a reason Utah's only this. Normally, if you have the worst basketball team playing one of the best basketball teams, which 8-3 is considered a top tier basketball team in any other conference but the Pac-12, they would probably be ranked. Now they're only favored by 3 points, and it's an absolute travesty what I've seen going on for the past few weeks in the Pac-12. I think Utah actually has a serious shot at pulling off the upset. I'd like to get 1.5 points to start the week. Now, I'd like to talk about at 8 o'clock. We have a Boise State team that is really flying under the radar. Everyone forgets about it because it's the Mountain West Conference. Mountain West Conference isn't exactly known for great basketball teams except for last year's San Diego State team, right? But this Boise State team is legitimately flying under the radar. They had an early loss to the season to San Diego State, a San Diego State team that had been playing surprisingly well, but they haven't lost since. I think they started out 0-1 and have won 10 straight games. The Broncos are doing a great job playing basketball. They do very complimentary basketball, passing the ball well. They don't commit turnovers. They're a fun basketball team to watch. On the other hand, Wyoming's playing, and Wyoming is also a very underrated team. If you don't remember, Wyoming was one of the worst teams in the Mountain West last year, and they won. They won their first game, and I think almost won their second. I don't quite remember. I remember Wyoming was one of the biggest. It would have been so much fun to see them make the tournament, and they were so close, but then they ended up falling, and I was like, no. But I believe that Boise State's going to beat Wyoming by a considerable margin. Not that I don't think Wyoming is good. I think they have a serious shot at doing some stuff in the Mountain West Basketball Tournament this year. But I really love what Boise State's been doing this year. So give me Boise State to beat Wyoming too. Hey everybody, this is GGB co-host Peppers saying adios amigos and go Utes.